Hello. So this is a recording of how to do your posterization and film separations through Photoshop. The first thing for your screen print project, so the first thing you want to do is throw your image you want to work with onto Photoshop, and you can create a new layer. And you want to fill that with white. That way, while you're doing the edits, you won't have that checkerboard image that is a little bit disruptive, distracting. The next thing you want to do is, say, call it paper. So you put that on the bottom. So all of these layers kind of act like a physical layer of something or a filter. So the next thing you want to do is create these adjustment layers that can change your color image into a black and white, or increasing the contrast for a better image. So for these adjustment layers, they're like non-destructive edits. So while you have these above your image, they're kind of like filters. So the first one I would open up is the black and white, and that changes the amount of color that's in your photograph. So if your image is a little bit noisy, or there's a lot of colors, you want to change it to a black and white. So you create a black and white layer. You can adjust the amount of color that's inside the photograph. And you could also use levels and curves. So you could create more adjustment layers to modify how much black, how much gray, and how much highlights you want to keep. Let's open up curves. And you can always go back to these adjustment layers to play with that, how it looks. Once you do that, you want to resize your image. So go to the image, image size, and you want to change the resolution to 300, but you want to make sure that this resample is off. Let's label it 300, but I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, say 11 by, you'll see what I'm doing in a second. So my image size is, I'm going to make that larger than my tabloid paper. I'm going to change the canvas size to the size of the print or image I want to print. So the maximums you can do is 16 by 10. And so from here, you can move your image by, you could select all, and then you can free transform this image by cropping. So I think I like that. Then you just press enter. So you can see here that there are a lot of details in here. Actually, before I do that, I need to add another layer. The posterization, but you want to put that on top of all of these adjustment layers. So that acts on everything that you have edited. And through the posterization, you can see there are 4 levels. That means there's white, gray, medium gray, and then a black. So that means there would be 3 separations. White doesn't count because that would be the color of the paper. So if you wanted just 2, or you wanted to see what 2 looks like, this is what 2 levels looks like. White, gray, and a black. So that means you would print out 2 separations, 1 black and 1 in gray. And then you would do a like a drawn layer or a different layer for your 3rd element. I'm going to keep this at 4. So I print out the posterization in 3 colors. So you can see here that there's a little bit of noise, little bit of detail. If you don't want too much detail, you want to soften the image, you can like, let's say, duplicate this layer, and let's call that blur. So this blur is above your original. You could turn it off just so it won't disturb or affect anything later. The next thing I do is go to filter and go to blur, Gaussian blur. And you can see here that it's already been softened. You can adjust this to get rid, or just soften the image a little bit more to have pretty solid colors or solid flats. If your image has a lot of detail, some of those small blacks or the noise may not print out. So once you're done with the blur, we can create another level, adjustment, I'm sorry. Create a threshold and put it all the way at the top, above everything. Put it all the way above the posterization. So you can see this slider, and this is this is posterized at 4 levels. That means there's 3 separations, right? So the black, the medium gray, light gray, and white. You want to turn that threshold on, and you can see the space in between these white lines are the different levels. And you can print this out already. Like, you don't have to do the color overlay like I was giving you as an option. So this would be your lightest layer, which would be like the first layer you print. Usually you want to print light to dark. And this would be your medium and your black or darkest layer or darkest color layer. So say if you're at this point, you go to this threshold, the far right level in the computer room. So you want to print this, you would print so in the computer room, when you're ready to print, at this point you could just print each of these levels. At this point you would print one and you would print each of these levels. But in the computer room, this is not the computer room, but what you would want to do, I can't find, I don't have a, well, you would change this to Tabloid. I don't have this option. And the next thing you would also want to do is print out the corner crop marks, but this is not the right size. So make sure that you select Tabloid. You would be able to see the crop marks. So these are the corner crop marks that are selected. This is not how you would do it, but basically you would want to print the correct size. When you're printing the vellum, you would put it on, I think the first, you would feed the vellum through the top. Also, there's a screen transparency preset. Like when you're here, it would appear here. That would say screen transparency, right? And that would print out the most opaque transparency off onto the vellum. If you wanted to do a test, you would make sure that you don't select the screen transparency preset, and you just feed in the regular tabloid size paper. So you would just do that for each of these levels. And that's just basically like quick and dirty kind of way to print your separations. Making sure you print out the crop marks, but how you would kind of create a mock-up in color is by, so I'm going to just kind of copy the black and create a new layer for each of these levels. So I'm going to start off with my lightest. It looks dark, but this would be the background color. So I had to stop recording, but I grouped all of the edits of my image into a folder. So this way I could just turn off this group, and you can see each of these as color separations, or the separations that you would print individually. So and I labeled each one accordingly. So how you do the color overlay, you should kind of put these in their own folder, but you need to kind of get rid of this checkerboard kind of look. So how I do this portion is kind of creating a layer under, I'm going to create a folder for each of these light, middle, and dark levels or layers with a like filled in white background. So I'm just going to fill this layer with white and kind of create a group, and I'm going to relabel this lightest color. So you see that the checkerboard is gone. I'm going to do this for all of my layers. So you fill that with white. And then I'm going to group them. So I'm kind of doing the double right clicking so I'm not sure if you're using a PC or Mac, but what you can do is just create a folder and drag and drop if this is better for you. There's another option, just to drag and drop. So you see that these two images are underneath or within this group. But what I would like is to merge down or merge layers. Did I do that here? I'm holding down the command key. Oops. To select both. So you could expand and collapse these folders. So now that I'm ready to kind of create a color overlay, I'm going to start with my lightest or whichever one. Just turn this off. So this is the lightest color. You want to select not the group, but the lightest layer. Here's the layer style. You want to select color overlay. When you double click it, make sure that this blend mode is screen, and you can select this lightest layer with this color picker. So I'm just going to select that. Okay. And make sure that's okay. Then you can select this mid color, expand that, select the mid color layer, color overlay. Make sure this is the blend mode is screen. You could choose this color This is the medium color. And I want to make sure this is set to multiply. The mid color folder should be passed through. Now I'm going to do my last color, my darkest. Expand that, select your layer, color overlay. Make sure this is screen, and you know, I'm on this color overlay. I'm going to select a color. And make sure this darkest folder is passed through. In your actual separation, you want to change this to multiply. So not the folder, which is passed through, but the actual layer should be set to multiply. And then you could collapse that. Again, the folder should be passed through, the layer should be multiply. Right, so the effects is where you can see your like layers, right? So if you want to adjust that again, so say the darkest color, you can change it again through the color picker, just to kind of get a general gist of, you know, what color combinations you want to use. And once you kind of have a kind of like this combination, but once you have a color scheme you like, you could play with the opacity. That means, say, if your darkest color has white in it, it would be more opaque, and you would not see like the colors underneath. But you could play with this. The opacity. But this is just a good way to just really get a general idea of how the image will look. From here, if you did not print out your separations yet, what you can do is just turn off these layers and print these individually. So you would deselect the effects. See this, I'm only looking at the darkest layer, turning off the effects of this color overlay. And you know, same thing, you would print, and then you would select that color, the screen transparency preset, and select the print crop marks, like the corner crop marks. But for some reason I don't have a selection for the tabloid size, so I'm just showing you these are the crop marks, the corner crop marks. This was what it looked like on the, it would print out on the corner of all four corners. Then select print, and you would do that for all of these layers if you did not do that already. So you could turn that off. So this mid color one, you could expand it to turn off the effects, but you can see the checkerboard pattern. You want to make sure this level, not the group, this level with this the separation is the opacity is set to 100. That way it will print out fully in black. You turn off the effects, And this would be the solid black that you would need to print for the mid color. Again, this is the lightest. You can turn off the effects, but also make sure that this layer is at full opacity.